Welcome to the Proactive Podcast, brought to you by Me Media.
G'day, well, Chris Hogan coming to you from SWISH Sales Coaching Studio in Surfers Paradise on the Gold Coast. I've been getting out of the Me Media studio and getting around to some really popular people like Ryan Tuckwood, who is founder of SWISH Sales Coaching. G'day, Ryan.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for popping in. So it's awesome to have somebody else in the studio.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's cool.
Amazing. So we're going to do a really raw and I think organic podcast here. We've got some questions that we might introduce a little later on, just to have a bit of fun.
Yeah.
But mostly, I want people to get to know Ryan. For those that don't know Ryan, he is an Australian distinguished talent visa holder. Something I read recently, which, you know, who really cares? But Ryan seems to care because he wrote it somewhere.
Because it means I can stay in Australia. Okay. That's why I care.
Right, okay, good. Yeah. So it means you can say you're Australian now.
I have permanent residency in Australia now. Right. I'm not an Australian citizen as yet, but now I can apply for it. I've been here 13 years, came here as a backpacker. And the visa that I was on was a de facto to my wife, who's Kiwi, but that never led to permanent residency. And then about 18 months ago, I got approached by the Office of Home Affairs, a talent scout. So there's talent scouts in the government that look for talent. That is the official title. And the one that approached me, she looks for talent from Israel and the UK. Stumbled across me and said they offer out 500 of these visas every single year. Would you like to apply? I coach a lot of immigration agents. We are a sponsor as well. So Michelle, who was our agent who'd helped us sponsor other people, I rang her. She said, if you've been approached by one of the scouts, you've got it. You're done. Apply right now. Help me put it through, and 8 weeks later, I'm a permanent resident.
Okay.
That was the quickest in the history of the thing, apparently.
The quickest in history.
Quickest in history. Not that I'm competitive.
Yeah.
but if I'm going to do it. Michelle was actually on our boot camp last week, and she did say I'm still, to this day, the quickest that they've ever got over the line. So yeah. So it means I can stay in the country, which is without looking over my shoulder, because de facto is great, but if it never led to permanent residency, I didn't know if I could stay. So yeah. And this is my life now. I love Australia.
Yeah, mate, you do. And I've noticed you've really adopted the Australian lifestyle. You know. With your kids getting out and playing footy around the traps, especially on the beach. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I've not really gone as far as like the budgie smugglers and all of that just yet, and all the shoeies. No. But otherwise, I'm pretty Aussie.
No, none of those are cool.
No.
So, mate, let's touch on your boot camp. So you just had a boot camp last week. What can you explain what the boot camp is?
The SWISH boot camp, it'll probably be our flagship live program that we run. We've been doing it since 2015. It's evolved a lot. It used to be purely for salespeople, and I'd almost take that a step further and say transactional salespeople that are just hitting the phones. It's now evolved into, we've had over 10,200 people that have come through the training. Last week in particular was the biggest one we'd ever done. We had people in the UK, Spain, Sweden, America. People were doing it through the middle of the night in bed, wherever they were, on Zoom. And then we had the best part of 120 people in the room here on the Gold Coast as well. So it is designed to be a very intense, immersive experience. 3 days, sales psychology day 1, sales process day 2, and sales execution, which sounds horrendous, day 3. Execution basically means they make sales. So they hit the phones, they jump on Zoom, and they get results there and then.
Okay.
It's a crazy experience, which is pretty cool.
Right. Does that involve prospecting as well?
Yeah, so the way I position it, because it's probably important to understand that 32% of our members now are not in sales. So we are a sales coaching organisation, but as Andrew Banks, one of our investors, once said, that it's not sales coaching, it's communication coaching. So what that meant was our client base has now evolved away from frontline sales to marketing, customer service, HR, administration, reception, team leaders, managers, business owners. So they're all just wanting to articulate their message better. So during that we call it a power hour on the final day of the boot camp, we use the skills that we learned on day 1 and day 2 to then drive a genuine pipeline to the surface. So we've got these 2 text messages that we send on day 1 to our pipeline, if you've got one, and that's designed to remove tire kickers and highlight the genuine buyers, and then we close them on the Friday. If you don't have a pipeline, we move the needle. So if it's prospecting, filling the pipeline, it could be team leaders writing out their elevator pitch or refining their daily structures or their sales processes. But either way, they walk out of there doing something. And that was born of a bit of a frustration of delivering what we believe to be world-class content over a boot camp, people going away, speak to them 4 weeks later and they've done nothing. And I actually interviewed a guy called Jeb Blunt over in the US, a sales coach. And he said on one of his programs, he does 15 minutes of prospecting. He said, I just make them do it before they leave. And I'm like, that's a great idea. So just decided to put in this power hour. And it's on the last one in September, we did $14 million in sales in a room of 40 people. This one alone, so we measure that from the 4 weeks post boot camp, so leads generated and activities generated in that hour. So already this weekend we've done over $20 million since Friday. It's Tuesday now. The best thing is the majority of those are not that people think those leads are dead, and they've just ignored them. They've just left them because they make decisions for their prospects, which they shouldn't be doing. So that's the boot camp.
Yeah.
It's pretty exciting. I love it. I love delivering it. It's fun. The community is amazing. The people that come on it are phenomenal because, as you know, we rebranded a few years ago. And from that rebrand from ISR training to SWISH and really putting out there a consistent message of selling with integrity, selling honestly, we now attract the right people. And I know you're the man on brand, right? And we had it wrong. We got it right. We attract the right people. We get better results. So.
Oh, 100% on board there. Yeah. And I think we were talking off camera before we turned on the cameras, obviously, about where I was at in business and how, shedding some of that, I guess, belief that I had to force growth, that I had to get that growth last year and put that to bed, that forced growth. So our tagline's building brands on purpose, and that's exactly what's come to us is purpose-led brands that are actually solving problems worth solving and without even trying. So that's amazing to me in itself. So
and it's easier said than done. Like we knew what we wanted to achieve, as in change the perception of sales. We wanted people to look at sales as a noble skill, a noble trait, not to shy away from it. And we wanted to empower good people, not dismissing the majority of salespeople, but good people that had a great business, good product or service, but maybe didn't know how to articulate their value. And our brand wasn't talking to those people. We were just another sales training company. And now, like the common feedback, and I went through the reviews this morning with some of the team, and people apologize. They literally come out of the boot camp apologizing because they came into it. Maybe they were. One of the first questions I ask on the first morning is, "Who's here under duress? Like, who doesn't want to be here?" And it's amazing that you'll get 10% of the room put their hand up. I don't want to be here. And they apologize at the end because they've seen sales through a different lens, but the brand wasn't talking to them. And now they are. Their partners are able to bring them along because they're like, just give it a go. So purpose-led, vision-driven companies, if you can get that right front end, it's a game changer.
Absolutely.
And achievement and fulfillment, right? Balance, not just achieving now. I just spoke about this morning about vanity-driven, vanity metrics. So early years just got caught up in it all. Like revenue, 100 people in a team. Can't think of anything worse than having a team of 100.
Revenue's vanity, property, sanity,
And easily got caught up in it, as opposed to what one of my coaches, Anna Samios, talks about, the jaws of margin. Making sure that you've got the jaws of margin in place, not just the top line number that everyone's chasing. Doesn't make any sense.
No. And been there.
Yeah.
So we're talking a bit about sales and marketing and how there's this disconnect between, I guess, sales and marketing teams, but then, you went on to say that there's actually a disconnect between more than just the sales and marketing. It's customer service. And you were talking about your program's more about a communication program. So the challenges that I'm seeing when I'm talking to marketers in my mentoring program is that they're getting, bombarded with all these new ideas for marketing when they already have a strategy in place, and it's coming mostly from the sales team saying, hey, we should be doing this, we should be doing this, we should be doing this. Being very reactive when the marketing team have actually gone and been proactive and created a strategy and said, look, we've identified these key areas that we want to focus on, but they're having a really tough time, I think, calming the farm and for want of a better term, saying no. They don't want to say no, but in some cases they have to. So that's my experience.
Yeah.
Are you seeing this disconnect between sales and marketing?
Massively, right? I always say that in life we get the wrong advice from the wrong people, the example is like if you're a parent and you've had parenting advice from a non-parent or business advice from a non-business owner, and then I always lead into sales advice from the marketing team, right? We all try to give each other advice when that's stay in your lane is often the phrase that is used. And it causes a disconnect, but it impacts way deeper than just results. Like there's people that are off sick, people that are, what's the phrase where they're there but they're not working? It was great, not resignation, but people are they're in the job, but they're not really performing. They're just kind of hiding because they're not motivated to do so. And it's a communication breakdown, and it comes all the way from the top with what you teach is understanding what drives a business. What are the values that underpin everything? What are we trying to achieve, as opposed to just having these are your KPIs, these are your metrics. You've got to drive X number of leads in every single week. You've got to convert at this. It's like, why? Like, what's the reason behind all of this? Having these people come through this funnel, you guys converting here, the support team backing up on the back end. What is that? What impact is that actually going to have on the individual that we're speaking to? So I think what often happens is it's just pure data and numbers that is communicated, if anything, not feelings and emotions of where people's mental state is going to be when each employee touches them. Every single employee can impact the experience of a client or prospect. And I think when a business truly understands that, whether it be when you walk through the door, the first person that you speak to, customer service on the back end, an accounts manager calling you up because you're late with your bill, they're all micro experiences that we have as a consumer. And if we can refine that across the board so we're all delivering the same message, the same energy, consistency, all of a sudden sales will go up, retentions will go up, average transaction values go up, people pay quicker, people refer more. And it's not hard to do. The challenge for us, initially, not so much these days, but was getting people to understand that they're all in sales. Because there's a resistance to believe that we're all in sales. But once we created content that spoke to all those different divisions, we went from bringing on board a team of 5 to like a team of 40, like overnight. And then the team's results are unbelievable. But like you don't want people to leave in a company because they feel undervalued just because it's a lack of communication. Such a waste of talent.
You just reminded me of something many years ago that I used to say to people when talking to them about selling them a website or a marketing program, and how I'm a terrible salesperson because I actually didn't want to be seen as a salesperson. And they didn't want me to be seen as a salesperson. So I used to say how terrible I was at it to try and, I guess, lower the resistance to purchase and also lower the resistance to being sold to. It's funny that I had to do that in order to, I felt like I had
What you were doing is actually lowering your own resistance. So that you felt comfortable to do it.
Exactly.
It's nothing to do with them.
So back to the, I guess the team working together. So sales, they're at the front line. They're front line selling, and they have valuable information for the marketing team. So have you worked out a system or a best way to, I guess, communicate those that market research that essentially the sales team are doing inadvertently?
It's a good way of putting it. It is. It's market research. It's live, finger on the pulse. Like, what is going on? What are people hearing? Just over communicate the whole way through. So we've implemented the Rockefeller habits with all of our meeting rhythms. It was something that Glenn Richards brought into us. It was interesting because Glenn brought it in, and I didn't really implement it until he introduced me to another lady called Anna Samios, and then she reinforced it. I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty good. And I actually spoke at Anna's event in Sydney last week, which is scaling up, which is where the Rockefeller habits are from, of Bern Harnish. So having all those meeting rhythms, like every single morning we have a morning huddle, we have our daily feedback emails, we have our end of week whip, all the Slack channels, but doing that as a company, not that sales over there, that's marketing over there. I think it's really important that everybody knows what everybody else has got on their plate. Keeping those huddles tight so they don't become a bitchy session or a complaint session, that's the skill. So it's like 15 minutes. What's some good news that you had yesterday? What are you working on today? What's your metric for success, and what challenges are you facing? You're having constant conversations around wins from a client yesterday. What they enjoyed was when they came through the funnel, they liked the upsell, they liked the video that you put through. Or it might be a marketing team saying, guys, how's that particular funnel working? We tried something new, did you notice that? Oh, we haven't had anybody come through that channel for a while. What I find in companies is that there's too long in between put something out there and checking the data. So we're like 6 data points, get it back, 6 data points, get it back. And that allows us to be very, very quick. I mean, we're a relatively small business, so we can be nimble. It's harder for big, huge corporates. But it means that everybody knows what's working and what's not working very quickly. Yeah. I have a meeting every single Monday with all the heads of each department. They will have what we call TCMs, training, coaching, mentoring sessions for 30 minutes with everybody within their team. So every week I'm getting things fed back to me. So just constant communication. Something that we're going to implement, which we haven't done, it was something Glenn spoke about last week at our event, is the founder or a middle manager calling a random customer once a week. Literally just me pick up the phone and call somebody in the field and go, how's the team? Like, not as a let's find out what's going wrong, but just call the team as the founder.
What was your experience like?
Yeah, literally, what was your experience? He said he used to do that at Green Cross Vets for many years.
And people were just shocked that you even called, right?
Yeah, and
what are you doing?
you got nothing else to do. So that works well. We also do the QC call. We use it as a follow-up strategy, and it's a great sales tool. But what it really does is it gathers the genuine reasons for people not moving forward, or if there was something in the process they didn't like. So basically, the way it works is, say you've got a sales cycle of like 6 weeks. On week 5, we would send them this text message that I mentioned on day 1 of the bootcamp. We send this text message. If that doesn't get any sort of attention, somebody else in the team would call you up and say, hey Chris, I know you're speaking to Steve a few weeks ago about potentially utilizing blah, blah, blah. I don't know whether you came on board or not, and to be quite frank, that's none of my business. My job is to make sure that Steve did his job correctly. So would you mind taking 2 minutes to give me a bit of feedback on Steve? Quality control call, find out about Steve.
I'm laughing because I've had this exact experience
from us. Yeah, there you go. Hundreds of thousands of dollars because you get the genuine objection. Yeah. Right? You always find out the real one. The key is making sure the person making that call doesn't try to turn it into a sales call. Right? The key is gather the information, feed it back to marketing, customer service, or sales.
And it's so funny when I've gotten those calls because I know the process. I know your process, and so I'm just like, yep, so should I expect a call from Ryan or Steve or someone?
Always get a call. And most people don't, and it's like, it's money on the table. Always get my call. And because it goes back to the old adage of don't make decisions for your customers. Yeah. Don't assume that it's...
Didn't you make that mistake once, or was it someone in your team?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was... Yeah.
It was you. Well, yeah.
That was me years and years ago. Just for people that might not have heard it, there was a guy on the phone, and he'd asked me what the top package was. He was literally paying. He'd given me his his card details, and I was just about to get the expiry in CCV, and he said, "What's the top package?" And I said, "Well, it's a bit more expensive. It's $25,000. I don't know if that would be feasible for you right now." And he said, "You condescending little prick." Put the phone down on me. My old boss pulled me off the floor, put me in front of 40 odd sales guys, and was like, "Tell everyone what just happened." And I got the best lesson of my life, because he said, just because you can't afford something doesn't mean they can't. But we do it. We impart our own limiting beliefs on people. And it could be as simple as, I won't call them back today because it's too soon. I won't call them back, it's end of financial year. They probably won't want to do this because they've got a couple of kids and they won't want to do that on the week. It's just making decisions for clients. Have the conversation. But it wouldn't hurt for marketing and customer service to make those calls as well. Like, marketing should 100%, like Brendan will sit and he'll listen to the calls. I want him to hear the leads that he's generated. Like, listen to them.
You're touching onto the perfect word. And that is what I find most people aren't prepared to do, is truly listen and be open-minded about the feedback that they're getting from the experience that the sales team, customer service team are having. And that they're too closed-minded and they're basically saying, no, this is the way we're doing it. This is what we set up. We can't change it. When in all reality, absolutely it can be changed. And all that really needs to happen is for you to accept that there could be another possibility in the situation and that it's worth listening to. And sometimes in these cases where, you get this feedback and you go, well, that's one. That's one bit of feedback. It's one person's feedback. The ideal sample size is 130 pieces of basic data in order to decide whether or not to sway this way or that. But a minimum size is 30. So, you can react on, 1, 2, 5, 10. But maybe there's some metrics that you need to put in place and say, well, hey, let's put that in here. And I'm talking, and when I'm saying you, I'm saying marketers, I'm saying business owners, I'm saying businesses can track, well, hey, we've had this issue. It's come up a number of times now. How many of those times has it come up? And they're the only ones that you know about too sometimes.
But that's a really good point, right? So imagine a marketing person coming to a sales guy and saying, this has come up too many times now. What is too many, right? Then there's an education piece that needs to happen before a marketing plan is put in place to go, hey guys, we're going to put a new funnel in place. We're going to A/B test these 2 videos with new copy. We know, because we're specialists in our field, that we need at least 30 data points, ideally 130, before we can understand if this is working. So in the nicest possible way, don't come to us until you've made 130 calls, right? So it needs to be conditioned up front.
That's cool.
Otherwise, there's a, well, no, I've made too many. I've made lots of calls and they're crap. Right? That's what I always hear from sales guys. The leads are crap. I'm like, how many people have you spoken to? 6. But the lots is open to interpretation, right? So you need to lay out the parameters before we even start that, so they know not to come to you, and then you control the communication. So you you reduce any sort of waste in pointless conversations, and then you reconvene at a point when you know you're going to hit that ideal data point. And then we have that backup plan. If this isn't working, where are we going to go after, and we can swiftly go into it. But I think it's the communication up front which is a challenge, and then it comes across as confrontational because the sales guys are just walking around going, this is bloody crap, these leads are rubbish.
And you tapped on a really important point, is that market research is so important to me in my business when I'm doing marketing strategies, right? What does the market actually want? Now, Steve Jobs says the market doesn't know what they want, the customer doesn't know what they want, so let's just do what we think's best and then we'll tell them what they want. But, the market can tell you a lot of things about maybe what they don't want. So most people can actually.
I think they know what they want. I don't think they know what they need. I think that's the problem. Like when we created this business back in the day, like you probably know this. Jack and I knew we wanted to do sales training, and we wanted it to be different to whatever else in the market. So we just approached local businesses, like pretty much our football mates that we knew were in business, and said, hey, if we were going to train some sales staff, what skills would you like them to have? What would you like us to teach them? And it was follow up, build rapport, overcome objections, resilience, so they can actually get through the challenging period. So we're like, all right, brilliant. So I went away, created a program, created a very unsophisticated boot camp 9 years ago. Was like, hey, we got this course. Do you want to put your team on it? It's what you said you wanted, right? So we then put them through that. Some of them were happy, some of them weren't, because it wasn't what they needed. So there's the argument of give people what they want to get to what they need, or we learn to ask better questions on the front end, because people, what they want is just a surface level fix. What caused it, they don't know. If they knew what caused it, they'd give you a different answer. So that comes down to them asking the right questions during a strategy session, or from a sales perspective during a discovery or a consultation. But it's an ongoing battle. But it doesn't need to be as hard as it is. There's a local company, and I won't name them because you know exactly who they are. They've got a team of like 160 sales reps, and this is on the back end, not marketing. They've got 160 sales reps, and then they've got 60 customer service guys. And we started coaching just their sales team, and we'll always try and bring them all together if possible. No, they don't need it. They're fine on the back end. Anyway, we did a year with the sales guys. Sales were flying, and then they were like, customer support for some of the sales guys, not all of them, is just like frustrated. They're angry. They're getting all this crap, all this abuse. And there's just a few sales guys in there that are just over-promising because they're like, get it over the line, get my commission, get it over the line. And these customer support guys, massive turnover of staff, I don't know if it was depression, but they were definitely not enjoying their job. So I got the sales guys to take it past that, to go and listen to your clients, go and listen to that onboard. They've got no idea what they just bought because you've just barreled them into a sale. Like it's terrible. So there's pressure from business owners on sales guys to make sales. That's where that comes from, because they're not disconnecting from the outcome. They're so connected to making a sale and making a commission. And then there's a total lack of awareness or ignorance towards who's going to have to support them on the back end. Some companies, they've never even met the customer support team, and they're just handing them over, and it's like, I wish you all the best. So it's got to flow all the way.
No, that introduction,
all the way through.
That introduction is super valuable, and I've seen it and I've experienced that, and you don't feel like you're just handballed and the buck's been passed, and you can always go back to the original salesperson if you like. In good organisations, hey, you said this, and
I struggled with that. I struggled with that handover when, as I was trying to scale the business. Obviously, I can't be the bottleneck, which most of us are. And then if, as the founder or as the head coach, people only want to deal with you, which is not ideal. So learning how to build value in your team is a great skill. Like one thing I'll do with companies straight away is receptionist, right? Who's the first port of call? Who deals with inbound inquiries or deals with the current customers? Okay, brilliant. Let me listen to one of those calls. And it's usually, good morning, it's Sarah at Me Media. How can I help you? Okay, fantastic. I want to talk to sales team. Okay, I'll pass you through. Right, that's the call. As opposed to framing the conversation, building a bit of value in the company, having a little statement around who I'm going to select to hand you through to, and then reading a three bullet point bio on that individual to say, Sarah, it sounds like Chris is going to be the best guy for you because he's been in this industry for this amount of time. This is what you're looking for. I'll pass you through right now. And then by the time you pick up the phone, you're like an 8 out of 10 already. Like, they are so important on the front desk to get it right, but it doesn't happen. They just get handed through, and then they wonder why they're fighting an uphill battle right away, which again doesn't need to happen.
Sounds to me like you've not only learned a lot about sales, but you've learned a lot about leadership. Passing on the baton to someone in your business so that you're not the bottleneck. Has that been difficult for you?
Yeah. I always say I'm not a great business owner. I don't think Jack or myself, without speaking on behalf of Jack, were great business people. We're great salespeople. So we knew how to drive revenue, we knew how to make sales, but we didn't know how to build an infrastructure that
Well, that's
could
just
support
you
it.
saying that to make yourself feel better.
Because we were crap.
No, because that's what you said to me before when I said about I'm not a good salesperson.
Well, Glenn Richards called us on it. So post Shark Tank, he said you guys are driving yourself into the ground. Like post Shark Tank, we had massive uptake for obvious reasons, but we didn't have the infrastructure to support it. And what I think we'd inadvertently done is hire a lot of Jacks and a lot of me's, and no diversity in the company, especially not from an age perspective. We were targeting like young entrepreneurs, which is great, but then they get entrepreneurial when they see you working and they go, I'm going to go and start my own business. They look at us and go, oh, if he can do it, I can do it. So we were losing these young entrepreneurs, which is great. They were starting their own businesses, but it didn't build a stable business. And then, as you know, I'm an ex-engineer. I was an engineer for 8 years, so I'm a perfectionist. Like everything has to be right. There's no room for error. So my natural instinct is to micromanage and make sure and double check everything, which is horrendous. Yeah. I shouldn't be on stage. There's too many variables. I should not live in the stage world.
But micromanagement is something I think you need to do. Realize how bad you've done it. In order to then go, well, actually,
yeah,
I don't need to do that anymore, and then
see how people thrive.
Yeah,
and then there's probably two parts to that. That's the way I'd always been managed, and I didn't mind it, right? Because I didn't like getting things wrong. So I liked people watching over my shoulder. I actually liked people checking up on everything that I did. And the second part was the company I found out I was working at when I first arrived here, the call center, that turned out to be like a boiler room environment, turned out to be a scammy company. And I just lost trust in everybody. These people that I was quite close to, and I'm like, you're a con artist. Like, how did I not, I was so naive to it all. So I didn't trust anybody. So then I'd bring someone into my company, I don't trust you, and I'm gonna watch everything that you do. Like, it's a recipe for disaster. And now I've learned, and I still have to be conscious around it, is like give trust, as opposed to like saying you've got to earn it. No one has to earn my trust. Everybody has my trust, and it's yours to lose. And it was interesting. I don't think I spoke about this on a podcast before. Andrew came in here 2021, in Jan 21, Andrew Banks, and he said to me, I know where you're at. He said, so I brought him in because it was middle of COVID and everyone's freaking out. And I said, can you come in here and just meet the team and have a bit of a pep talk for everyone? And he did, and he was great. And then all the team went out, and I stayed in the boardroom with him, and he says, I know where you're at. I said, where am I at? I don't know.
I'm glad you know.
Yeah, I'm glad you know. I'm freaking out. He says, you need to shed some skin. He says, there's going to be a change in the guard here. He says, I reckon 75% of your team will be gone in the next 12 to 18 months. And I'm like, okay, cool. And he goes, it needs to happen. He goes, we're talking about moving the gun from B2C to B2B, focusing on higher average size clients. What got you here won't get you there, all of that. And he goes, yeah, I think there's going to be some big changes. And that was the best part 2 years ago, and we've had 80% changeover of the team. We've halved the size of the team and tripled the revenue. Talk about getting the right clients in. You got to get the right team in as well. I had the right team then, but I didn't have the right team for where we wanted to be. And that's nothing against anybody else that previously worked here. It's just that sometimes we come to the end of the road in relationships and journeys, and that's cool. So leadership, I'm still learning. We've got Mark Hamawi, I think you know. Do you know Mark Hamawi on the Gold Coast? He's one of our leadership coaches. I learned a lot from him. Anna Samios, who I mentioned before, she's amazing. I learned a lot from just watching people or going into the businesses that we coach. Fortunate to work with some big corporates and seeing what not to do.
I do know Mark, sorry.
You would know Mark. Because we get to lift the hood up on so many companies, we get to talk to the sales teams, the managers, and we get to hear about the way they talk about their leaders. So I think that's, in a way, it's quite a fortunate position to be in, because we're like, oh shit, well maybe I was doing that as well. So I'll stop doing that, because my team are not going to give me that feedback. You know, they might get somebody external. Yeah,
it is a great position to be in when you can see into other people's businesses, see how they're operating, and go, oh right, maybe I shouldn't do things that way myself, and do things more that way.
I tell you what we did, which is quite interesting. a few years ago, we did an anonymous survey of the team. It was a founder's survey. It was about Jack and I. And the standout bit of feedback for me on areas to improve was just tell us what you want. Stop beating around the bush. Like, I've always been someone.
I think I got exactly the same thing 10 years ago. Yeah.
And I don't know if it comes from a desire to be liked or not want to upset people, but I've always been of the belief that, and I know now it probably comes across as passive aggressive more than anything, that just surely they'll figure it out. Like, if I keep dropping enough little comments, they'll get at what I mean. Whereas people are like, can you just tell me? Like, if I'm doing something wrong, just tell me. Whereas I'm like, do you think you could have done that any better? I think it came across as maybe it was the way I was delivering it back in the day. So I've learned to just cut through the noise now and just tell people if I don't agree with something, or just, and I've had to become a better decision maker as well, especially since Jack exited 3 years ago. The team need a leader. Right? You got to step up, and they need to know you at least appear to have your shit together at some stage. Glenn Richards said it. He says that during COVID, he goes, right, your job right now, Ryan, is to absorb everybody's fear and exude confidence.
Yeah.
And the way you do that, and he says you can exude confidence by saying, I don't know what's going to happen. As long as you have clarity in that, and I did. I came back in, told the team, I was like, guys, I don't know if we're going to survive. And I didn't. I had no idea. But what I do know is we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that we do. Yeah. And every single client that we've got on board gets a world-class experience still.
Yeah, that experience was empowering for me. During COVID, I'd previously been through GFC 1.0, and I was calling that GFC 2.0. And then, I had my bout of depression, and I felt, and that's actually when I was out of my depression. So COVID hit, and I'm going, I've been through the ringer that many times that this shit ain't even gonna touch me, you know. And I learned also that our marketing methodology and just marketing advertising in general, when you actually go harder during those tough times, you actually come out much better. And it was actually my client who described the analogy to me, which is the American bison, so or American buffalo, however you want to talk about them. When they see a storm coming, they're different to cows. So cattle will actually run away from the storm and try and outrun the storm, whereas the American bison will run straight headfirst into the storm, and they come out of it quicker. Yeah. Because they obviously head down straight through it, right? Yeah. And so that we use that terminology so much, that story so much now, and it worked. And I did the same with the team. And to be honest, because I'd built so much resilience through eating shit sandwiches in business, those other times, it was like everybody else is feeling shit. Well, hey, I've been there. Yeah. I know exactly how to get through this.
You've got perspective, right?
And it was and uplifted the team. Yeah. Everyone was on Zoom. I was the only one in the office, and it was like, who's done their exercise this morning? Who's eating a healthy breakfast? Who's drinking water? Like those essential ingredients to having a great day. And then like, all right, let's go. Who's speaking to the clients? Who's getting this done? And blah, 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 blah. And it was so positive. And I had comments from the team who were thinking it was all doom and gloom, saying, wow, this is so uplifting.
Yeah, you pulled me through that. I always talk about I always say, don't forget your arm, like in anything, like your actions, your reactions, and your mindset. Right? We can control in any environment what we do, what actions we take, whether it be going to the gym, drinking the right amount of water, eating the right foods, going for a walk in the morning, dials on the phone. We can control all of that. We can control the way we react to certain situations, and you get those two right, you control your mindset. But most people don't. They let external factors creep in, and even just through osmosis, it will go in eventually if you're hearing the same crappy stories long enough.
There's a lot of, I think, wisdom that's come about through age and experience, isn't there? 9 years in business yourself, 40-something.
Just turned 40. Yeah, don't give me too many more than that. Just turned 40 in October, yeah.
Good. And sometimes, well, I've heard people say that the first 20 years of your life is just the training. Now you're ready. Now you're ready for the real battle.
I
right?
was.
Now you're prepared.
Weirdly, I don't know. I had a little bit of a moment when I turned 40. I'm like, that is it. I'm like, I got to take life serious. I got a personal trainer, started eating right. I'm like, is this my midlife crisis? Is this what it looks like? And I remember having a conversation. I actually interviewed here, Theo, from Usher Group, and we'd finished the podcast and I was sitting, just having a conversation with him over there because he's quite spiritual and I said to him, I said, I'm not religious and I'm not overly spiritual and that either, but I said, I'm thinking about it more frequently. And he goes, how old are you? And I said, I'm 39. He goes, yeah, that's about right. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, you go through the cycle, like 20. And I'm like, oh, don't tell me I'm just falling into the exact same that everybody does. But it makes sense. Like, you do start questioning things and looking outside for, I don't know what it is, but I've got kids and I want to make sure that I'm the best version for them. I don't want to come into the team and be stressed. I often talk about that battle of fulfillment versus achievement. I've earned lots of money. I want to love what I do. Every day I want to enjoy it. And Andrew Banks said something really profound on Wednesday last week. He said he had this epiphany, was the way he explained it, that this is not his body. He said, this ain't my body, this is just rented. And the same as if I was renting a car, then I'd have to look after it and service it. And it was funny, all three of them had the same theme of health and fitness and mental health and what they do, their daily structures and in place. And I hadn't really done that since I finished playing football about 4 years ago. And I'm never going to be a fatty. I don't think I'm going to put on lots of weight. But my PT called me skinny fat. So it doesn't mean I was healthy. But I definitely know that getting up early, looking after myself, I come in here and I'm a better version for all of them and hopefully for the kids and that as well. So it's a journey, isn't it? Like, I don't know if it will ever stop.
No, but it's natural for us at 40 because, our metabolism's slowed down double the amount from when we were 20.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And we're starting to see the physical signs or feel the physical signs of that change in age. And my sensei, he said he was reading up about the Stoics, and they said that I think it was Marcus Aurelius said that even if we live to 1,000, when we reach the age of 800, we'd be worried and concerned about the amount of things that we hadn't done, and that we needed to really get on with life. Yeah. And so, therefore, it's natural for us,
And you combine that with what's happened in the last 2 years, 3 years, it's accelerating people's thoughts. There was, like personality profiling, DISC and all of that. So I did my accreditation through a company called TTI in Sydney. And when I first did it, they explained that we have our natural personality type and that will never change. You have your default position and short of a traumatic event or a near-death experience, maybe you lose a loved one or something like that, your natural personality type will never ever change. Your adaptive can swing, but your natural doesn't change. But in the last 2 years since COVID, and they've done 35 million profiles over 30 years, they've had the biggest change ever of natural personality types. COVID has acted, even if you didn't lose anyone, it has acted the same as a traumatic or life-threatening event. So people's natural personality types have changed, which is causing people to go, screw it, I'm going to go and do something new. I'm going to go and live in Bali. I'm going to go and whatever. But people are actually changing because of what happened around the world.
That was the same in my experience, life experience and research around values, which is exactly the same thing, personality types, attitudes. That your values don't change unless you meet with a adverse life event. The amount of people that went, you know what, work doesn't matter, being in an office doesn't matter. All that matters to me is that I'm happy and healthy and I'm with my family and yada yada yada. I don't need the house. Look, I'm going and live in a van.
Seen loads of it.
Loads, right? Loads.
It'll be interesting to see in 4 or 5 years' time if that goes full swing, and then we default back to materialistic things or whatever it was before, when people realise that we do still need some money. Like, we do live in an economic world.
I believe it will. Everything happens in cycles, and even with the advent of the internet, it's nearly a 30-year cycle. You see fashions, come around again.
I wear all of them at the same time. I will.
Yeah. So you do. Yeah, you normally have it. Sometimes I see you in cut open jeans and then a suit jacket.
Flares.
So fashions is a really popular one. Music is another one that you can see. So it's the nostalgic event comes back around to relive itself. But the internet's done a funny thing where it's actually merged a lot of, I guess, what's the word? I guess nostalgic events, because people can dial up any song that they want. They can dial up any look that they want. And, you do you is an actual saying, right? So just be you, and people becoming more used to, just be me.
That's
Everyone
okay.
else is taken, So there's people becoming more, accustomed to that. But I think it will happen in cycles, just like it did with our parents, I was one of the lucky kids. I lived a very privileged upbringing. I'd never faced adversity really my entire life until such time that I've faced undiagnosed depression, but it was still, I didn't really want to get out of bed. I was pretty shit, and it lasted around 2 years.
Yeah, wow.
So that moment in my life helped me reframe things and helped me find the values that are important to me. And so these kids that are growing up now, they're not experiencing much adversity, really. Like, yes, definitely there's different, I guess, socioeconomic areas that are occurring. And, hey, some people even say the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you look at it generally, there's, we're going to go through potentially another recession, right? So that happened in the 90s. I was oblivious to it all.
Yeah, of course.
Oblivious. I was riding my bike around, hanging out with my mates, having a great old time.
Yeah, life's good.
Yeah. My parents were very, lucky or smart at the time that they had a housing commission loan, which means they didn't actually experience the 19%, 17% interest rates. So they had a fixed rate interest rate at 6% for the life of their loan, when everyone else copped it hard. Don't know how they did that or whatnot, but they managed it really well, and they're proactive up front, where I saw people having to sell and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, wow.
So this experience is definitely going to impact everybody as the homeowner now. And so what's that going to look like for the kids? Are the kids going to go, well, home ownership's not important, material stuff's not important, or are they just going to go, it just goes over their head? I remember when I was young, like as I said, it just went, I was oblivious to it all.
Well, it's a tough one, because we spoke about our kids having a very different upbringing, definitely to my childhood, where I'm fortunate enough to live and business and all of that jazz. Like, I didn't have any of that, but I was very well loved. My parents were fantastic. They were always there for me, but we didn't have a lot of money. So I want to make sure that our kids experience different cultures, hence the reason to go over to Bali in April and expose them to just different things. We're not going to live in a slum. We're not going to. We'll probably still stay in a nice villa or something.
No, but they will see. They will see the goings on. Yeah, it's fantastic.
And I think that's,
and smell different stuff too.
Genuinely. And I think that's like you want to try and prepare them best for the real world, and not kind of sugarcoat anything, because the real world's bloody hard. having conversations with people at certain times, especially around depression or anxiety, that's tough. Like, I even in sales sense, I always say to the team, like, give yourself a chance. Do everything you can to give yourself a chance should a sale need to be made, right? You don't go in there to make a sale, but you do everything right to give yourself a chance. I think parenting's the same. You just do everything you can to bring the best little humans up into the world and give them the best chance of being a great human once they reach adulthood. At some stage, you're going to kind of let them go, like anything, like any sort of leadership. Which, say that now, mine are only 4 and 2, so see how, if they want to move to the UK, like, not a chance. I haven't got a passport. Sorry, you're never English.
No, it's interesting, and as they grow older, you keep on trying to do exactly what you're doing. I've got 17, 14, and 7, 3 girls. So, it doesn't get easier. Yeah. At least in my case, but it does get more interesting, and I've learnt to be really accepting of that change and rolling with the punches, so to speak, of teenagehood. So, mate, that's pretty much time. I wanted to ask you one last question, which I don't know why this is important for me.
I'm so scared.
Where's your spirituality at now?
Probably still the same. Curious. And when I say spirituality, like, I'm curious around meditation and breath work. I don't know if it even fits in the same world. I don't know.
I think it does. It does. Well, it's tapping into Earth's energy.
I think I've just become more aware, and hopefully this comes across the right way, the more elite performers, and there's a lot of people out there that are blagging business, that are telling you they're doing this and they're not doing anything, and they're so focused on money, and I'm becoming more aware of those that have genuinely achieved a high level over a consistent, prolonged amount of time, but they also have other life things going on as well. It's not just all business, which is, I don't want this to define me. I would love this to be my legacy. I'd love to be known as the guy that created SWISH and ethical sales.
Well, that's already done, mate. So what's your next one?
I hope so. So now I'm like, okay, what's the common denominator? And every single one of these people, they do seem to practice some sort of breathwork, meditation. They tap into something deeper.
Ice baths.
I've done it a couple of times. No, I haven't done it frequently. I've done it twice. Yeah. It's all right. I know I'm feeling great through training, through gym. I know I'm never going to be a massive bloke, but I feel good for it.
Yeah.
And I dare say that this is what I've noticed, that the more I streamline this business, the more trust I put into my team, the faster it grows without me, the more time I get to work on me. So that when they do see me again, better version of me. I used to always get sick on boot camps. I used to always get sick leading up to big events, or past event, just after the event, because I was like stressed. I was so worried about everybody else and everything being in place, like going around checking the workbooks and I just turn up and deliver the content now. The team are unbelievable. Like, getting that right, getting the right people around me. I often talk about creating your circle of inspiration. I used to call it create a hit list of people you want to get out of your circle. So, like, reducing my exposure to people or the conversation with certain people that doesn't add value to me.
Yeah, I call that a no dickheads policy.
Yeah. Which is hard, because usually it's like family members or people that are really close to you. So that's why I changed it to, like, reduce your exposure to clients. Yeah, that's true as well. And that has allowed me to find or make more time to train and to. I just go and take the dog for a walk in the morning after training and just sit and do a bit of breathing. But it's just probably where I'm at right now.
Cool. One final question I ask everybody on the podcast. Where have you been most proactive, and how has that benefited you?
Most productive?
Proactive.
It's going to be a really boring answer. I love the what if scenarios, as in, I don't like risk, so I'm proactive in thinking about worst case scenarios all the time, right? In anything. So, what if that marketing plan doesn't work? What if this employee doesn't work? What if this boot camp fails? What if Zoom goes off halfway? Like, it's more of a practical and literal proactive nature that I have, of making sure things don't go wrong, and I think that's saved us a lot of time over the years. A human version of that would be understanding human behavior. I think one of the best decisions I ever made was to go down the behavioral science, emotional intelligence route, not just from a sales perspective. I mean, that is a game changer there.
Well, it's fascinating, isn't it?
You don't need to understand sales, you just need to understand people. You understand how people tick. I don't like the word manipulate, influence, hate the word convince. The first three letters don't sit well with me. I like the word inspire. If you can inspire somebody to do something for positive change, that is cool. So I think being proactive, to be fascinated around that and just consume has been great for me. I don't know if that's the answer you wanted, but
that's
my answer.
It's your answer. Yeah. I had a massive list of questions here that we're going to have fun with, but we've run out of time. It was absolutely fantastic talking to you, mate. And thank you so much for watching the Proactive Podcast. I'm here with Ryan Tuckwood, and he is a legend. And he did found SWISH Sales Coaching, and that's what he's well known for. So you need a new dream, mate.
Okay, another business.
No, just a new dream.
Okay.
Thanks for watching. You can see us on YouTube. Search for Me Media. We put these podcasts on my website, memedia.com.au, and it's all over Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Search for Proactive Podcasts with Chris Hogan. Thanks for watching.
Cheers, mate.
How do people follow you?
LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Ryan Tuckwood Official. You go on TikTok if you want. Don't know what I'm doing, but there's some content on there. Or swishsalescoaching.com for the company.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.